Gordon counted me. That's me not listening, apparently. Doug Schreiber, who's been gracious enough to join us, not all of his 18 years here, because we haven't been doing the show that long, but he's been here every year to talk Purdue baseball, Kyle Charters as well. I want to thank our sponsors, Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, John Basham, and the folks at Basham Reynolds, and of course, Triple X, Kerry and Greg Ayersman. We thank you for sponsoring us. It's baseball weather out there. It's over 30 degrees. We're ready to go.
Yeah, we would take this on any day in the spring. So, but we have been fortunate. We've been able to go outside a few times, and we'll take advantage of it anytime we can get it.
Yeah.
You open up down there in Atlanta. You will play that game outside, so it is nice to be 3 days out already, and then you'll probably practice tomorrow and Sunday outside too.
Yeah. So we'll probably get about 5 days. I know snow's forecasted for Monday and Tuesday, and. But it's good. I mean, sometimes all we can get outside sometimes is for outfielders to get fly balls, and we've been able to do everything. So we've been able to scrimmage and do some things live outside. So it's been beneficial.
I was out at your practice last night, which was in Mollenkoff, worried about baseballs flying with the white background behind, how you guys are able to deal with. I mean, it's not just you guys, but northern teams are practicing inside, and then all of a sudden, the middle of February, you're heading south and playing baseball against teams that have been practicing in 50, 60 degree weather.
We've kind of sometimes likened it to a basketball team maybe having to practice on a grass court with rims at 9 feet, and then all of a sudden on game day you're on a wood floor and the rims are back up to 10 feet. But Mollenkoff really gives us a great venue to get ready, indoors, and the white wall and the white baseball, we just tell our guys it's visual training for them. So
if you can do it in here, you can do it outside, right?
That's right.
You've seen in the College World Series maybe more of a smattering of northern teams. I don't know if that's just statistically, if there's any reality in that statement at all, but that's what I gather. But is that gap? Is it easier now for a team that's from the Big Ten to get to that level because of travel in February or recruiting or indoor facilities or all the above? I mean, how do you view that?
Yeah, and I do think it's all the above. I mean, there's still advantages for teams down south, just with building their RPI and playing the home games and things like that. So they have adjusted the RPI to kind of help us. We get a few more points now for a road win. And I think the way that they are structuring the regionals and super regionals, in the old days it used to just be to the highest bidders, and the highest bidders were typically teams that had the facilities that could house a big crowd and kind of bid their way into it. Now they are looking at more the top ranked teams, and they are, I think, pretty good at trying to get teams from all across the country. But it still is it's distorted. And but last year we had 5 teams in the NCAA tournament, and we feel like that's going to be probably more the norm now. So we feel like the Big Ten has improved, with the addition, especially of Nebraska and Maryland. And Rutgers is actually not a bad program either. So we feel like the Big Ten is really on the rise.
It was crazy last year. It's amazing how you don't have to go very far south for it to warm up. I think you played Louisville in the middle of March. It was their 19th consecutive home game, and you had yet to play a home game. You think of Louisville, and you don't think it's that far, but it was warm enough down there for them to actually play home games in February.
Yeah, they're right on that line, and so those teams, again, I mean, they're playing a lot of home games, and they don't have to deal with the snow probably as much, or maybe the thaw that we have in our ground. But they take advantage of it. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't play in cold weather, because we've probably played some of our coldest games down in Louisville.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. And there ain't nothing colder than 38 degrees. And I never played baseball at that level, but I mean, there's nothing worse from that standpoint. Nothing of a bigger challenge. But in all seriousness, how do you keep? It's early in the year, obviously, when you have those types of days, and
they have those types of days sometimes late in the year.
Oh yeah, that's true. It drives. Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on the need to play college baseball in June and July, but at least in Indiana. But that has just got to be a challenge to keep your guys mentally into it, especially when you start your schedule with X number of games on the road. You have to stop from. I guess my ultimate question is, how do you keep them from being a little bit discouraged if you don't win as many as you want off the front end?
I mean, we look at it as it's part of the equation, and so we understand that that's kind of what we deal with, and that's our reality. So, you do have to stay positive with it, and you got to kind of focus on more on what you have and not what you don't have. We like to think that it makes us a little bit tougher mentally, and these guys, a lot of them are going to want to play, professional baseball, and if they actually make it up to the major league level, I think there's more cold weather teams in the MLB than there are warm weather, and so if you want to play in Chicago and Cleveland and Boston and New York and those places, early in the spring or late in the fall, especially World Series time, they're playing into October and November now. That's just kind of part of the equation.
Yeah.
I was out of practice last night, the indoor practice. I get the impression from you and talking to some of the other guys that they enjoy each other. They like this team a little bit. You like this team. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and again, I think we've done a very good job of trying to teach them again that, you can't feel sorry for yourself because no one else is going to feel sorry for you. Your opponent and the fans and everybody aren't going to feel sorry for you. So, they've grown up a lot, and I think that the older guys, they haven't had a whole lot of success, as a team at this level, and it's winding down for them, and they want to have that experience, and I think that they've learned some lessons, and but they really, they're trusting in one another and believing in one another and pulling for one another, and they're trying to inspire one another rather than vie for that playing time, and I think they're plugging more into that team attitude than just what can they get out of it.
This senior class was being recruited at the time of the the championship season, and Kyle Wood's case was here, I guess, redshirting that first year, but I mean, they came in feeling like they were going to probably pick up the baton from there, and it hasn't been as easy for them. Has the adversity? I guess the hope is the adversity will pay off this year. But do you feel like they've learned something from the last few years?
Yeah, I think so. And if you even look at how we finished last season, so we went through a pretty tough stretch there and faced a lot of really good pitching. That was probably one of the better pitching performances I thought throughout the Big Ten last year. And we stuck with it, to fight and win that last game at Michigan State when we could have easily said, hey, they've already won the first two. Mm-hmm. We go to Nebraska and they win the first game and we come back and win the last two, there. So those are two tough places to play, and then finish up at home. So I think we won our last 5 in a row. Actually, going into the season, we have the nation's longest winning streak.
There you go.
There's good and bad about that, but we'll look at the positive on it. But again, they could have easily just said, you know what, let's just cash it in, and I thought we did come together towards the end of that season, and not that momentum is going to carry over 9 months later, but I think that there are lessons that they're learning, and that they can build upon that.
Yeah. Big Ten Network and the fact that you get a lot of games on television, and it becomes, in this time of year, you don't have a lot of competition, at least from one of the primary sports, I call them, in the sports world. How big a difference has that made in recruiting, and how do you look at that as down the road as elevating the Big Ten's presence in college baseball?
It's been huge. Just the BTN's presence and being able to showcase kind of our sport, really throughout the country, for alumni, fans, and then obviously recruits too. So it's a little added bonus, when you do recruit, and to be able to say that we're going to have X amount of games, and our tournament's going to be covered by the Big Ten Network. Our field actually now has television booths and plug-ins, so we've camera decks and things. So it makes it feel a little bit more big time, and we stream a lot of our games now too online. So with the technology and everything, it does allow people outside maybe the Big Ten footprint to know a little bit more about Big Ten baseball.
Games are on the radio too.
Yeah,
and our games are on the radio. That's absolutely right. Some of the best voices there are.
Yeah, that's right. And they're on, and those make it to the internet as well sometimes.
Yes.
Right? So that.
Yes.
He had to throw that in there, and he does have one of the best baseball voices. He has one of the best voices, but certainly one of the best baseball voices you're going to find. You look at this, the landscape of college baseball, and I think I ask you this every year, so you probably get to say, well, he's going to ask me that question about the move towards. It's always frustrating to me, and probably frustrating to you, is the schedule ends maybe May 15th at home, and the weather's just getting good, and you've got the most phenomenal facility, in my view. ever going to change, or do you ever see that changing, or is it just the way it is? Because I mean, it obviously becomes such a big deal in June in Omaha, and it gets ratings now and all that kind of stuff. But how do you view that?
There's just so many variables to move this season. I know there's been a little bit of a push to kind of move it into the summer. I mean, our summer collegiate leagues around the country basically are making pretty good money off of our talent level and our products. So, we would like to take advantage of that too. But, with how you're going to handle scholarships and pay for kids to stay on campus and do some of that stuff, are they going to take classes in the summer? Are they going to take classes all year round? I mean, there's just a lot of variables on top of, I think, some of the networks do like where College World Series falls in, into that schedule. And Omaha, is a great host, and I think that they like where it kind of falls in. So there's just a lot of moving parts. I, again, would love to see us be able to play some games that actually count in the fall. It would split up your season a little bit, but no different than, right now we practice 6 months before we ever actually get to play a game, and, we would still have plenty of time to prepare our teams in the fall, play maybe a 12 or 14 game season. Non-conference, you could come out with the national rankings after that based off of some real life, scenarios rather than the, just the projections, and then finish up, in the spring with, your 44 games or whatever. So, again, it takes a lot to change, and everybody is, kind of.
You can't get the teams down south to agree.
Yeah, they got a little bit of advantage. I don't think that they want to necessarily give up, but it would allow us to be able to bring in teams like a Texas or an Arizona State to come play us in the fall and have our people be exposed to that, as opposed to us always having to go to those places.
Yeah. I mean, just talking about this year's team, what do you feel like the strength is for this group? I mean, you have some veteran guys now, and especially in the middle of your lineup. Really have a veteran lineup. You feel like you're going to be able to score some runs.
Yeah, when you have older guys, I mean, it should be a positive for you. I mean, if they don't handle things accordingly, then it could wind up probably being a little bit of a detriment. But these guys have been very mature about everything, and their approach and their work ethic has been outstanding. Again, the leadership, I think, has emerged and has been there. But again, from an offensive standpoint, we feel that we've got some table setters at the top with Shipley and Strong. We've got some middle of the order hitters, including a freshman, Jack McGowan, that's going to, hit in the 3-hole. And we feel very good that we're going to be able to be pretty diverse and do some different things offensively. And then from the pitching standpoint, we've got 5 or 6 starters that I think we can choose from, and those that aren't starting will help bolster the bullpen. And we've got some solid, strong arms in the bullpen that we've had some guys that, the Joe Eichmans and Matt Gibbs, I thought have done a good job the last couple of years, but they didn't have that power arm. Yeah. Where you've got Frawley now and maybe Tanner Schumacher that can finish up games. So we feel like we have some power arms now at the end of the game too.
Yeah. You guys were involved in an awful lot of close games last year. How do you turn close losses into close victories?
Yeah, well, coaching coaching helps. You got to make those right choices. But no, I think baseball comes down to probably sometimes even the 5th and 6th inning. Yeah. It doesn't always happen. Wins and losses aren't always in that 7th, 8th, 9th. So we've just got to do a better job of being consistent all the way through. I mean, so starting pitchers have got to do their role, but we feel again that we've kind of bolstered that bullpen and are trying to fireproof that a little bit, to give us a chance that we don't have to score 7, 8 runs a game to put ourselves in a position to win.
The world of baseball recruiting and the world of kids playing baseball, is the pool getting? I sense somewhat of a resurgence, and maybe it's just because maybe I call it the Cubs effect around here because people are getting excited about that. But is that reality, or are enough kids playing baseball at the high enough level that you can get enough kids from around here or from wherever you're going?
There are now. If you go at the high school level, you're going to probably see that there's some schools that are struggling to field a freshman or a JV team and the varsity team. So maybe those numbers have dwindled a little bit. But summer baseball, travel baseball, I think has exploded. So you have a lot more travel teams. And again, I mean, you have to kind of look at the level of play. But with the showcases and things, I mean, kids understand. I mean, the exposure is out there for them. And so I do think that there is a lot of interest in again, with a lot of the facilities that are being built and the money that's being put into travel ball, I mean, it's kind of exploding.
How do you navigate the nightmare that is, what, 11.9?
11.7.
11.7 scholarships?
You just added
the
a
draft.
0.2.
Yeah, he just donated. No, he can't do that. Can't change the rules. So.
The draft, kids not making it, whatever. I mean, it just seems like trying to figure out how you're doing partial scholarships when you want to recruit kids that might get drafted, that might not end up getting here. How do you do that?
It is tough. I mean, because again, we don't give full scholarships, and so we may view someone and have this much money available for them or for that position, and we can get outbidded by other schools.
Yeah.
On top of that, if we do too good of a job recruiting and we get some really high talent, we could lose them to the draft, and so they'll never show up on campus. So I mean, it's a lot of checks and balances and things. It's not an exact science, but you try to do your best. But a lot of times we don't know what our roster is going to look like, even going into the fall. Right up to that last day, who's going to actually show up on campus. Where some other sports know that once they get a commitment, they're gonna wind up with those people, and they can plan a little bit more accordingly. So. Again, you want most of your players to have that, drive to play professional baseball, and you got to kind of squeeze it in where you're trying to go after guys that are, educated oriented and know what a college degree is going to do for them, on top of having that drive, and it's not just all about baseball.
It adds a lot of importance to either walk-ons or low money guys that you get, right? I mean, you look back at that championship team and. The names everybody knows, the Plawecki's and Perkins and Whitgrens and, Serrato and the rest of those guys made a big difference, obviously, but some of the tail end guys were sort of the difference on that team too, right?
Huge. I mean, we had guys like Spillner and Talbot and David Miller, Eric Charles, that they didn't come in on money their first year, and we were able to help them out, later. But, I mean, that's vital. I mean, so... Baseball has a limit. You can have 27 players on athletic aid. Our money usually runs out when we get to 23, 24. So you're still talking about, 10, 11, 12 guys that are here on their own dime, so to speak. And those guys can be, huge if you, get the right guys, makeup-wise and skill level-wise.
Yeah, it's a huge chess game, I think, for you. I always think of you guys, and Kyle brings us up to date on it's unbelievable what you have to go through to be able to fully estimate who's going to be there and how it all is going to work. So baseball, first home game is March somewhere.
I think it's
That's so far away.
Yeah, it's a light year away. It'll be in March, which is still amazing that you're playing in March here, but it's going to be 75 degrees, and it'll be perfect for that day. But you have a full schedule to come up here, and a busy time, certainly, for the Boilermakers as they make their way to 2016 baseball. Kyle's looking it up, and you are saying...
It's March 23rd.
There you go.
Louisville. And
play over in Kokomo the weekend before that. So.
New park there, right? So it's going to be, is that open, right?
They opened it last year. It wasn't completed as far as, all of their construction, and it probably will have a few items that are still, getting, ready for their summer. But, it was the Kokomo Jackrabbits played in the Prospect League, a collegiate summer league. And Rex Gingrich was kind of our, contact over there that helped us out, and we're really looking forward to it. I mean, they're going to be great hosts, and it's a great stadium, and I think it'll be a good experience for our players.
Yeah, absolutely. Rex, a former Boilermaker and very much involved with the baseball world throughout Indiana. Well, Coach, best of luck this year. We thank you so much. Kyle, thank you as well. We want to thank our sponsors, Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, of course, John Basham, the folks at Basham Rental, and Triple X, on the hill but on the level, Purdue tradition since 1929. He's only been here since 1999, so it's not been that long, and he's not been here that long. We're looking forward to the baseball season, looking forward to the warmer weather, and I think will be a turnaround season for Purdue. We will also want to thank Gordon and Allie back in the back room, and Cammie as well, for all that you do for us putting this show on the air. Roosevelt Barnes, who's on our first segments as well. We'll be back next week, next Friday. We'll be talking to go into some of the football assistant coaches, some of the new faces, and we'll look forward to getting to know them a little bit better as we make our way through February on Gold and Black Live. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. And if you missed part of this show, the archive will be posted here probably within the next 90 minutes or so. Thanks so much.